What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're gonna look at Mvvm bindings, and specifically we'll put together this application. So the concept of a binding in the model view model pattern is whenever your view models change because your underlying data changed, maybe as a result of an API call, you want your view to automatically update to reflect those data changes. So we'll take a look at how to build this pattern out from scratch. No libraries, none of that today. So if that all sounds good, make sure you start by destroying that like button down below. Helps out a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and you're into iOS and Swift. That said, let's get into the video. Alright, we're going to get started by opening up Xcode and creating a new project. We're going to stick with the app template under iOS, and let's go ahead and give this project a name of Mvvm Bindings. Make sure your language is set to Swift, your lifecycle UI kit, and your interface is storyboard. Go ahead and continue, save the project wherever you'd like. I'll save it onto my desktop and replace a folder with the same name. And once you've got that created, go ahead and close this right panel and expand your window, and we can jump into our view controller file. So what do we need to do? To accomplish this whole binding and observable business, we do want something that is going to represent an observable object. We're also going to want a model. And of course, we'll want some view models, and we're going to want a controller as well. So in our controller, we're going to be making an API call to get a list of users, and once we have them, once we update the view models, we should see the view automatically update, hence the whole concept of Mvvm bindings. So the first thing we'll do in here is create a function called fetch, and I'm just going to go ahead and create a URL that I copied right before doing this video, so I don't forget to do that. So I'll paste that in right there. It's just a mock API to return a list of users. So now that we have that, the next thing that we want to go ahead and do is create an object that is capable of observing and binding to values. So this is the concept of when a value of something that's binded to has changed, we should be informed of that change to update the UI. So I'm going to create a class called Observable, and it's going to take a generic parameter of t, or generic type of t, I should say, and we're going to want an initializer on here that takes in a value, just like that, and it's going to actually be t optional. And we are going to hang on to that value here as value. So here we can say self.value is value. Now, if you're not familiar with generics, that's what t is here. Just bear with me and it'll make a little more sense in a little bit. So here is an observable class that wraps any type of generic value. Now, whenever we actually create this, we want to bind to it. So I'm also going to create a function called bind, and this is going to take in a listener. And the listener is what's going to get called every time that the value changes, and it'll return the updated value for t. Now, the reason t is optional is because we want to allow the thing that we're observing to be nullable, because, you know, sometimes values in our view model might be nil to start off. Let's say the data comes back from an API call, for example. So now that we have this bind function here, and we're passing in this closure, what we want to do is we want to hang on to an instance of this listener. So we're going to say listener is the same type here, and it's going to be optional by default since we don't have a listener from the beginning. And now in here we can say self.listener is going to equal listener, which makes sense. Now, once we have actually gone ahead and assigned the listener, one thing that we might want to do is actually call it. Now, the reason we have an issue here is because, let's take a look of what the error is, assigning non-escaping. So this needs to be escaping here. So what we can actually do is just prefix it at escaping, since we're going to hold the listener as the property here. But we probably also want to call this listener as soon as we bind to it with the latest value. So that way, as soon as we bind, we're going to get one invocation of whatever the current value is. Now, whenever we change the value here, we also want to let our listener know that we have changed it. So in the did set of this, we can go ahead and say call the listener for the current value. Now, the reason we have a question mark here is because listener, once again, might be nil since it's optional. And this is basically how we're going to hang on to an observable view model. So now that we've got this piece done, let's go ahead and create a model which we're going to get back from our API. It's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be a user model. It'll be codable. And there's quite a few properties in here, but just for the sake of today's example, we're just going to use one of them, which is the user's name. So that's looking good. Now we're going to want two view models. The first one is going to just be, let's go ahead and create this. This will be a user list view model, and this is going to represent the single view model that drives our table view. And inside of it, we're going to have a users collection, or we can call this maybe user view models. And this is going to be of type observable, the thing that we created up above. And it's going to be observable. So let's see. Actually, this user view model, correct. So it's going to be user list view model. But before we actually fill this piece in, let me create the other one here. So we're going to want another view model, and this one's going to be a user table view cell view model. We were getting a little ahead of ourselves. Now, every table view cell, we're going to want to show the user's name. This is a pretty simple example, so we'll just have a single name in here. And what we want to bind to, or the thing we want to observe, is this collection of user view models. So this is going to be of type observable array of user table view cell view model. Now, we want to also assign this with a default starting value of empty array. So let me actually call this users, and we should get all of our autocomplete hopefully working. So let's see. All right, looks like we still have an error here. Let's see what's going on. So this is saying replace colon with equals. Where do I have a colon? So the type here is observable, and it is generic. It's going to have an array. Let's try an array of string. That's because this should be a bracket. This should be user table view cell view model. So every time you're working with generics, the syntax is pretty important. So whenever it's a generic, the type declaration is in these angle brackets, and then the instantiation is like any other class you're constructing with the parentheses, and we're going to start off with an empty array. So now that we've got these created here, every time users is updated, we should be able to get a binding invocation that it changed. So we'll need to bind to this users here. So now what we want to go ahead and do is in our controller, we're going to first and foremost create a table view. It's going to be a pretty simple table view. I'm not going to go too crazy with custom cells, since it's not really the point of this video. So we'll go ahead and create that table view here. We'll go ahead and return it, and I'm going to go ahead and register a generic table view cell. So we'll say register a cell class UI table view cell.self for the reuse ID of cell. So now that we've got that there, we need to make sure we add it as a subview. We can assign its frames to view.bounds is what I'm looking for. Also want to assign its data source to be self. And we'll take care of this API call momentarily. Let's go ahead and conform to the data source, just like that. Now that's going to require us to bring in the two functions for the data source, which is number of rows, as well as cell for row at index path. So cell for row at index path. And before we fill these in, let's create an instance of our view model. So we don't want to create this one here. What we want to create is the top one. So leaving this bottom one alone, since that's the one that we're going to derive from our API call. So let's go ahead and create it here. I'm going to go ahead and say private var. There's going to be a view model here, which will basically be our user view model. We can just create it like that. And now in number of rows, I can say this is view model dot users dot value dot count. And now since value is optional, we're going to coalesce it to 0. You might be wondering where value comes from. So let's take a look at this again. So we have users here, which isn't an array. It's actually an observable array of this user table view cell view model. Now observable exposes the generic type through this value parameter or value property. So that's the thing we're actually going to look at, which will point to the array. So hopefully that's making sense. So for dequeuing a cell, we're just going to dequeue a cell like we would normally do. So we're going to say dequeue a reusable cell with the ID of cell for a given index path. We'll go ahead and return it. Now in terms of assigning these cells actual text, in theory, you can pass in the view model to a subclass, but we'll just do it here. This is going to be viewModel.users.value, getting the nth position .name. So now if that's nil, we're going to see no text, but of course, we'll see something if there is an array of actual values. And the last two things left to do is, first of all, bind and then also fetch our data. So how do we bind? So we're going to say viewModel.users, and we're going to want to bind to this. Now we don't actually care about the value that comes back that is changed, so we'll just say underscore here. But when we do get, a update that something has changed in the users, we're going to say self.tableview.reload data. And we'll also capture weak self here to make sure we don't cause a memory leak. So now that we've actually binded our users data, our users view model, we can go ahead and say fetch data, or just fetch, I think is what I called it. Let's go ahead and actually rename it to fetch data. And we'll change it down here to fetch data as well, and we'll perform our API call. So we're going to go ahead and create a pretty basic API call. It'll be URL session.shared. It's going to be data task with a URL and a completion handler. So this one here, we'll go ahead and pass in our URL. Our completion will give us data, and we're just going to ignore the error and the response. We'll go ahead and unwrap that data. So we'll say guardlet and bind it. Otherwise, we're going to return. Then we want to actually decode our data. So we'll do a do catch here, and I'm going to go ahead and say users. Maybe we can say user models to make it more clear. We'll be try to use JSON decoder to decode an array of users. This is a user model, keep in mind, from the data. And if we just go up to where we originally wrote it, a user model is simply a codable object with the single property that we're looking at today, which is name. And if we get a collection of user models, what we want to do is we want to update these to view models. So we're going to say our self.viewModel.users.value, we're going to assign to this. And what we want to do is we want to convert the user models into our user table view cell view models. So let's bear with me here. We're going to go ahead and say create a user table view cell view model, open up the constructor, and we'll pass in $0.name. And that's it. That's really the magic of how this is going to work. So let's not forget to call task.resume. That's why we have a warning up there. We need to call resume to actually kick it off. And I think we're in good shape to go ahead and run this app. And assuming everything is working, we'll go ahead and talk through this before we wrap up. So let me go ahead and select a simulator. We'll go with the 12 Pro Max and hit that run button. And what we should see is basically we'll fetch the data and a table view reflecting our collection of different users here. So just bear with the simulator and boom, there is our table of different table view cells with the names. So the core part of what we've done here today is this bit of code right here on line 66 to 70. So we're binding the fact of users, which is a collection of user table view cell view models. And whenever this binding is called upon, we go ahead and refresh the table, which is our UI, and it'll use the latest view models. And the magic underneath that bind is a thing that we covered in the very beginning here is this bit of code here. So we have a class, observable, which is capable of taking a generic value, hence t optional, and it's also capable of hanging onto a single listener, so you can bind the observable to a single listener. And whenever the value changes in the did set here, we go ahead and invoke that listener, letting the binded site know that the value has changed. Now, one improvement that you could make here, which I haven't actually done today, is you might want to bind a particular value to multiple listeners. So in this case, we only have listener. You could actually change this to an array of listeners and do this as well. And what this allows you to do is whenever you call bind here, you can go ahead and say listeners.append, and you can go ahead and pass in that listener. And then once again, once the value changes here, you can go ahead and say listeners.forEach. And what you can do is call that listener passing in the value. And what this allows you to now do is you can bind a single value, a single observable object to multiple listeners. The last thing I'll mention here, the absolute last thing, is for those of you that are somewhat familiar with Swift UI, they have a concept of observable object, and this is building this out this way in just normal Swift and UI kit is actually very similar to how observable object actually works under the hood. So this approach is fairly scalable and fairly common in a lot of large applications. Hopefully my explanation was fair and clear. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any questions. If you have any feedback, video suggestions, always love hearing from you guys. If you haven't liked the video already, definitely don't forget to smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you're into iOS, Swift, and haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.